Elementary School has a positive, hopeful atmosphere. Marlon Ray says the workshop and concert made possible by Kid Pan Alley created good memories that will last for years. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
This is the VOA Special English Education Report. Most schools in the United States receive money from federal programs. That means most schools must obey a federal law known as Title IX. It bars discrimination on the basis of sex at any educational institution that receives federal money. An exception is made for admissions at private undergraduate schools. For others, Title IX covers any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. The full name is Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972. A lot of Americans may be surprised to know that it was written without saying anything directly about sports. Yet that is where its effects are best known, especially at the high school level. After Title IX became law, the number of girls who joined high school sports teams sharply increased. Research has linked participation in sports to positive effects, like better self-image, fewer teen pregnancies, and higher grades. But are these a direct result? Two recent studies suggest that the answer is yes. They offer long-term evidence that it can lead to improvements in education, work, and health. Betsy Stevenson is a business and public policy researcher at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. She compared states, looking at differences in high school sports participation and in women's education and work. For each 10 percentage point increase in sports participation, she found a 1-point increase in female college attendance. She also linked it to a 1 to 2-point increase in the number of women in the labor force. The other study looked at physical health. Robert Kessner is an economics professor at the University of Illinois at Chicago. He compared obesity rates and physical activity levels of women who had been in high school before and after Title IX took effect. He found that those who came after Title IX had a 7% lower risk of obesity 20 to 25 years later. Nicole Lavoie is Associate Director of the Tucker Center for Research on Girls and Women in Sport at the University of Minnesota. She says the new studies are important because they show trends over time. Still, she says, far more boys than girls joined sports teams nearly 40 years after Title IX gave girls a chance to level the playing field. And that's the VOA Special English Education Report. You can post comments at voaspecialenglish.com.
This is the VOA Special English Education Report. Each year, about 250,000 Americans study in other countries. Some study abroad programs are trying harder to get students to learn about the local culture. One student, on his first morning in Beijing, was brought to a distant part of the city. He received money and instructions how to get back. It took some time, but he succeeded. Professor William Finley says challenges like this help students experience another culture. He heads the sociology department at the University of Georgia in the United States. He says, it's absolutely crucial that they know something about how people in other parts of the world live and think, and how they behave. Often, those students go in large groups, and they hang around with each other. We felt that they really weren't getting to know the local inhabitants. In 2008, Professor Finley started a program with South Africa's Stellenbosch University. The program combines traditional classroom learning with community involvement through a non-governmental organization. He says, we've been working with a particular NGO in the township, and they do two things. They run a number of these creches, which are basically daycare centers for children whose parents are working, and the library in the community where there are some computers. Our students typically work either with the little kids in the daycares, or they work in the library and teach very basic computer skills to mostly young adults. Hillary Kinsey is studying international affairs. She spent 3 weeks in the Stellenbosch program. She says, it was interesting to learn the history of the area and the recent development with democracy and that sort of thing, and then talk to these people and see what the social dynamics were, what the ethnic divisions were, how certain groups felt about other groups. When Ms. Kinsey returned from South Africa, she and other students in the program created a non-profit organization. We called it Ubuntu, which is a South African concept coined by Desmond Tutu, and it means I am because we are. The idea is kind of based around relationships within society and what generates prosperity for the whole. And so we kind of took that notion and translated it into a larger international community. She says the goal is to help improve education and development in South Africa. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Many Syrians are trying to study overseas while a civil war continues in their country. Thousands of Syrian university students sought help when they learned there was money to help them continue their education. Leen Al-Zabak is with Jusur, an organization for Syrians living overseas. Jusur joined with the American-based Institute of International Education to create the Syria Consortium for Higher Education in Crisis. More than 40 universities in the United States and Europe agreed to provide emergency aid to Syrian students and professors. Each university decides which students to accept. Universities in the consortium are supporting 70 students right now. One member of the consortium is American University in Washington. It is supporting a Syrian graduate student and a faculty member in the university's School of International Service. Daniela Kayast is the vice president of the Institute of International Education. She expects there will be aid opportunities for 600 Syrian students during the next few months. She notes that a former president of Portugal, Jorge Sampaio, launched a scholarship program called the Global Platform for Syrian Students. He created the program because of Portugal's history of educating Jewish refugee children during World War II. The Institute of International Education